Old world mythologies are pretty based. Grand tales about how the world as we know it came to be. Stories with values and principles, starring now iconic characters with flaws relatable to the common man. Everyone knows the classics. Heracles, Thor, Jason? Given that Japan is home to some very interesting fiction, it surprises me that Shinto isn't more prevalent in pop culture like how Greek and Norse are. Shinto is a pretty optimistic religion. It follows the acts of deities known as kami, warding off demons and evil, protecting humanity, which is said to be inherently pure and good. Shinto says that the greater god, or Okami, Izanagi, created Japan alongside his partner Izanami. The two then started popping out babies left, right and center. That includes islands, somehow. Eventually, Izanami gives birth to the fire god Kagatsuchi, and accidentally burns to death in the process. She winds up in Yomi, the underworld. Izanagi then finds Izanami in Yomi, but she's not looking her best. He flees like the Giga Chad husband that he is and seals her inside. Stricken with grief, he takes a nice bath. From washing his eyes and nose, he births 3 more kami, Amaterasu and Tsukiyomi from his eyes, and Susanoo from his nose. This dude just can't stop pushing out kids. Susanoo was Shinto's god of thunder, and he was a bit of a stinker. He was ultimately banished from Takamagahara, the land of the kami. He redeemed himself by slaying the terrifying 8-headed serpent demon Orochi. Oh yeah, fun fact, thunder gods killing big snakes is extremely common in folklore for some reason. Right, so he gave the sword that he retrieved from the serpent called, I'm not even gonna try and pronounce that, to his sister Amaterasu as an apology gift for shitting in her palace? Anyway, the brilliant minds at Capcom decided to make a game centered on Shinto in 2006. They called it Okami, which means wolf in Japanese. Do you get it? Do you get the pun? The first thing you'll notice jumping into this game is its beautiful visual style. It's evocative of the... Look, I know I did this joke before, but what is this word? The inkwash style of Shinto artwork, and damn, just look at it. Need I remind you that this game came out in 2006? That's the same year as Oblivion, and Sonic 06, and Barnyard. Supposedly, the goal of this style isn't a one-for-one representation, rather to capture the spirit of what's being painted. This philosophy slots in perfectly with animation, where the goal isn't so much realism as it is getting across the movement of the character. See smearing, for example, where the character is warped between frames to give the illusion of motion blur. This looks great unless you pause the frames. Oh god, her legs! Honestly, the pairing of these two mediums was a match made in Takamagahara. I'm sorry, that was really bad. Now, the game is capped at 30 FPS. And I know that sounds bad, but it doesn't really matter. I'm not gonna harp on about how it adds to the cinematic aesthetic or some bullshit like that. It doesn't. But it isn't the end of the world either, despite what some game reviewers on Steam would have you believe. I'd assume it's a root problem, like the game speed is tied to the frame rate or something like that. This is an issue with quite a few games, even the more modern ones. I'm looking at you, Bethesda. Didn't realize I was playing Sonic 76. The game's soundtrack is also really good. It really adds to the game's theme and style. It makes the experience feel a lot more authentic. The game is really indulgent in its style in every way it can be. I mean, look at the flowers blooming in your tracks for God's sake. For God's sake, I'm sorry. The game's aged phenomenally for being so old, and that even extends to its gameplay, which is fairly rare. I mean, look at Persona 3, for example. Who are you? Oh no. No! Before we talk about that, though, here's a little history lesson. Did you know? The Oracle games for the Game Boy were actually developed by Capcom, and they were, surprisingly enough, very good. I mean, I haven't played them, but a guy on YouTube said so it must be true. Each of the games focused on one of the major aspects of Zelda. Seasons focused on the combat, and ages focused on the puzzles. The level of finesse with these games really showed that the devs not only cared about the game they were making, but also knew what made them fun. The third game was scrapped, but ultimately we were left with 2 great games at a time where Zelda was, in my opinion, soon to fall into monotony. As far as I'm aware, Capcom never made another Zelda game, and part of me wishes that they did. The 3D Zeldas were good, don't get me wrong, but they were just kind of awkward and slow and just not as fun as the 2D games. Okami feels like Capcom's attempt at a 3D Zelda, and an amazing one at that. Look, I even found some surface level similarities. They're both action-adventure titles. There's a focus on a story about the gods, puzzle-based dungeons, an item-based upgrade system. Well, not really, but I'll get into that. An annoying little shit that follows you around. Chests, time-based shenanigans, being able to call forth the sun or the moon. The first dungeon being in a tree. That's probably not actually true. Heart pieces, bombs and bombable getting walls. The power of ice, fire, and lights. They both have text appearing in the game. I want to reiterate that I believe Okami does Zelda better than Zelda. These similarities may be purely circumstantial, but given the history of Capcom with the Zelda franchise, it's definitely a fun thought that Capcom decided to have their own take on the 3D Zelda formula. I in no way aim to devalue Okami by saying it's a ripoff. Hell, I played Temtem for 150 hours. I feel like the term ripoff does more harm than good anyway. Taking something you know and love, and putting your own spin on it to make the perfect thing is how art is made. How do you think Metroidvania came to be? They're literally called Metroidvanias. How about we compare Okami and Zelda in a little bit more detail? That way I can talk about Okami and also shit on Zelda at the same time. It's a win-win for everyone! Part 1. The combat. So Zelda's combat is at best a bit clunky, and at worst literally a waiting game. Okami flips that on its head. Amaterasu is always on the offensive, constantly dishing out damage, stringing arcade-like combos, and absolutely annihilating her foes. There are even different weapon types, something that Zelda would only explore in Breath of the Wild 11 years later. These are also based on the 3 regalia of Japan, which is pretty neat. That being said, rosaries are the absolute best weapons, so you'll probably stick to them for the most part. I should add that you have a primary and secondary slot, and every weapon gets different effects in each. Mirrors become shields, rosaries become fucking guns, and glaives become, swipes? I don't know, I never used them. You can also buy extra techniques at the dojo, such as a quick dodge with Fleetfoot and pissing and shitting on your enemies. This is the best game! Oh yeah, and each encounter is graded based on your performance too, which is pretty neat. You'll get bonus money for taking little damage and beating the enemies quickly. Needless to say, Okami takes the cake here. Part 2! The puzzle. Wait, no, it's the exploration. Yeah, it's that one. Okami's exploration is a seamless part of the experience in a way that's similar to Breath of the Wild. Listen, I promise I'll stop making references to Breath of the Wild. You have an objective, but you'll also be given a big expansive land with multiple legitimately useful goodies to find in the form of praise. The game's power system is tied to praise. You get it through exploring, cleansing cursed areas, blooming trees, feeding animals, and helping people out, all of which is satisfying on its own. Praise isn't documented, so it isn't the end of the world if you don't feed all those starving animals, you monster. The system is reminiscent to Korok seeds, and it's good for all the same reasons. Though I'd argue that the rewards you get from getting praise are a hell of a lot better than Korok seeds. For the die-hard collector, Okami has stray beads. These are fully documented in the game and consistent with their location, as opposed to bullshit Skulltulas, which I only found like 3 of in all of my playthroughs, which was 1, because Ocarina of Time isn't very good. I know that Zelda also has big areas to explore, but there's absolutely zero reason to explore Zelda's worlds. I mean, there's not really much to find. I guess rupees and maybe the odd heart piece, but they're very unlikely to just be sitting out in the open anyway, so exploring is just better in Okami, okay? Part 3... This one's the puzzles. Okay. Zelda does puzzles better, but honestly, I don't care. I never really cared for the puzzle side of Zelda, and chances are you don't either. I mean, think about it. The best puzzle in Ocarina of Time is the Water Temple, and everyone hates the Water Temple. The 2D Zelda games rarely had any puzzles. Think about A Link to the Past and Zelda 1. It was mostly just combat challenges, and in my opinion, they were better for it. Okami's puzzles are, most often, pretty simple or environment-based. I guess there's also a puzzle aspect to enemy weaknesses, but I don't think that really counts. Still, Okami's more fluid for this. I'm not bashing my head against the wall because I can't find a single eye to shoot. Instead, I'm bashing my head against the wall as Isan tells me exactly what to do in excruciating detail. I can't remember this one's a part, but fuck it. Part 4, the brush? Okami's main gameplay mechanic is the Celestial Brush. These are the items of the game. The brush techniques range in uses from opening new areas, providing more mobility, and giving you more combat potential. There's very commonly a crossover in these categories too. The seemingly situational slow time and cherry bomb spells, I'm calling them spells because fuck you, can be very effective in combat too, as they give you a larger window to attack enemies with invincibility stages, or deal heavy damage to enemies for the early game, especially compared to other options at that stage. The system is, again, similar to Zelda, though implemented much better. These spells can be fired out practically seamlessly in battle in a way that's pretty ahead of its time. With Zelda, you need to completely drop the tempo of a battle just to change your items. Like Zelda, the spells are often used for uncovering weak spots on certain enemies. Unlike Zelda, you won't have to wait until these weak spots appear. The weak spots will only appear after the enemy has sustained enough damage. With that being said, a lot of this is just subjective, so let's look at something that's even more subjective. The story. Okami follows the Kami Okami, god that's a mouthful, Amaterasu 100 years after her former incarnation, Shiranui, and the legendary hero Nagi, that sounds familiar, slew the dreaded Orochi with the sword Tsukuyomi. That's not exactly how the myths went, but you know, close enough Capcom. The piece didn't exactly last long, as a man eventually freed the beast from its bindings. Our goal is to regain Amaterasu's lost strength after her 100-year sleep. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. By getting the Master Sword, freeing the 13 Celestial Brush Gods, and finding a way to slay Orochi once and for all. Along the way, we encounter the drunken, arrogant bum Susanoo. Pretty fitting considering his namesake. He has a pretty gripping character arc, as he learns to accept his destiny as the descendant of Nagi, and face his fears by fighting Orochi. Wait, does that mean that There's also the enigmatic traveler named Waka, and of course Isan, who is pretty much this game's Navi. Shut the fuck up! Though by the Moon Cave, seemingly the game's climax, these two characters are left unresolved. In fact, we only have half of the brush techniques and even fewer of the weapons available. Turns out, this is only a third of the final game. When I first had this revelation, I was gobsmacked. Flabbergasted even. A lot of people who played this game probably felt the same. I hear sentiments about it being too long or ending 3 times, and honestly, that's kinda true. Okami can be split into 3 arcs. There's an arc dedicated to Orochi, of course, but then there's one revolving around the coastal capital city, and the final arc in the snowy mountains of Kamui. These 3 parts are vastly different, sharing virtually no characters, enemy designs, locales, or even scenery for the most part. The second half of the game felt like DLC, or a sequel. By the climax of the 3rd arc, I had travelled back in time to fight Orochi once again, before fighting alongside Shiranui to defeat the current threat, 2 giant mechanical birds with time stop powers. It was fucking sick! I can understand if you felt that the game dragged on. The pacing is certainly jarring, but there's a reasonable reason for it. As a goddess, it doesn't really make sense that Amaterasu would do one thing and be done. Amaterasu isn't even the main character in each of these arcs. She's an aid for the real heroes, Susanoo, Rao, and Oki. As I said, she helps Susanoo achieve his destiny of slaying Orochi. She avenges Rao's death by protecting Seian City and killing the imposter Ninetales. Get out of my head! And she helps Oki awaken the power of his sword to open the arc of Yamato, the game's true finale. Even then, in the arc of Yamato, she still takes a back seat to Waka, who turns out to be the creator of the arc. Waka feels personally responsible for the death of all the Celestials aboard the Ark, as it was overrun by demons. To add insult to injury, the demons then slaughtered countless humans, which is technically his fault as well, the little rascal. Ultimately, Amaterasu, now with the praise and belief of everyone in Japan, is able to defeat Yami, the Dark Lord. I'm cutting this out of the script, it's not even funny. It's very anime. Friendship is power sort of guff. But yeah, that made me realize that most anime tropes probably originate from Shinto. Obviously, there's more to it than that. Each arc is 10 hours long, but I'll leave that for you to discover. Also, my throat is starting to hurt, so. Okami was a commercial failure, and honestly, that's a travesty. Without so much as a sequel. A good sequel. It's really a shame, but it's bittersweet. At least Okami didn't live long enough to be milked as dry as Zelda has been. That's a poor choice of words. Regardless, I highly recommend you check it out. It's on Steam, so who knows, maybe supporting it there will give it the recognition it deserves. I can always pray for Amaterasu and Smash. It's gonna be another Fire Emblem character, isn't it? Hey, what's up? Thanks for watching the video. This is the first time I've ever made anything like this, so if you enjoyed, then I would appreciate it if you dropped a cheeky like and subscribe. I don't know how to do an outro. I want to clear a few things up. Capcom didn't actually develop Okami, it was Clover Studios. But for the narrative of the video, I thought it was probably best to just omit that detail. I hope you understand. Also, I don't hate Zelda. I actually really do enjoy the 3D Zelda games, including Ocarina of Time. I think it's a bit overrated, but it's still a really good game. That being said, Okami is still better than Zelda, and everything I said about Zelda is true, and I still agree with it, but they're still good games, so. I know I bastardized the Izanagi and Izanami story. It was bastardized before I had to cut it down, and now it's even worse, so that's always good. I think I had more to say, but I honestly can't remember, so never mind. Let me know if you enjoyed and you want more, because I had a lot of fun making this, but obviously I don't know if it's good or not. With all that out of the way, thanks for watching. Bye?